using rescue remedy to treat a stressed out cat, is that really something that we should be considering? Okay, so question number 2 was sent in by Britt, and she's got a couple of cats, and one of them has become super stressed out. She's tried Fellaway, she's tried using a herb collar, which helped a little, but not much. And now she's moved on to trying rescue remedy, and it seems to have helped. But she's wondering, where does she put it? How does she administer it? How, again, what dose? Kind of how many times a day should she be using it? So she said she's used rescue remedy herself and she knows it well for people, but not so much for animals. And then she also asks, is there anything else that she could do or she should be doing for her stressed out cat? So to start with, stress in a multi-cat household is really common, and Britt has got a couple of cats. It's something that, it's great that she's recognised, because I think a lot of us don't necessarily appreciate the stress that our cats can be under. But then other things such as pain can cause similar problems to what she's seeing. And any cat with a change in behaviour should be checked to ensure that nothing else is going wrong, and to get specific recommendations as well, tailored to your specific cat, specifically from your vet, which goes back a little bit to my last question. And then we can actually take steps to reduce the causes of stress rather than just to medicate. So if we've got a stressed out cat for any reason, if we can identify the cause of that stress and remove it or lessen it, then that's going to be much better than simply giving medication, trying different supplements, and trying to treat it. So definitely trying to eliminate it from the environment, if you like, is really important. So to start with, we should have one more food bowl, one more water bowl, and one more litter tray than the number of cats in the house. So if we've got 2 cats, that means 3 food bowls, 3 water bowls, 3 litter trays, and that's in separate locations as well. If you've got 3 cats, it's 4 food bowls, and etc. So, you can quickly see how if you've got a lot of cats, then you need a lot of resources, and that's because the competition for these resources is a really big cause of stress. Now, another thing, we also need to have escape routes. So rather than just have 2 cats shut in the same room in close proximity, if they're not getting on, they've got nowhere to go. We want to have escape routes, and safe spaces as well that a cat can get to, and a cat can hide away in and feel safe. And cats are really 3-dimensional in their outlook of their environment. So having spaces up high or tucked away kind of at the top of a wardrobe or in a cupboard, under a bed, up high, down low, is really important. Now, if we move on to medications, some people will swear by rescue remedy, and typically they'll give a drop or 2 several times a day. And actually, I've had kind of a little bit of a change in my beliefs recently, and I think it's always important that we kind of reevaluate things, and we don't just kind of take things for granted, or we look into things a little bit more closely, because I used to believe that actually that rescue remedy, it could be classed as a herbal supplement, and so could potentially be beneficial. But I've recently been looking into it in a little bit more detail as I've been looking at different supplements. And a bit of background, it was first produced in the 1930s by an English homeopath, and when he was feeling a certain emotion, all he did is he held his hand over various different plants, and the one that made him feel better, he ascribed kind of the healing power to cure that negative emotion to that plant. He then collected the dew from the plant, feeling that the plant would have transferred its energy into the water that was sitting on the petals, and then that was mixed with the same amount of brandy to produce something called a mother tincture, before being further diluted in alcohol to produce the final therapeutic product. Now, it's not produced in the same way as homeopathic remedies. In the dilution is not so great, and there's not this concussive step to transfer the energy. So in homeopathic remedies, they take a drop of a substance, they dilute it in a lot of water, and then they kind of bash it against a leather strap to transfer the energy before diluting it again. So we don't undergo kind of that step, but it's got very similar underlying philosophies. Now, in commercially produced things, so like rescue remedy, which is actually kind of the dew, if you like, from 5 different flowers, if the dew can't be collected, then the initial step is the water actually having the flowers and the petals from the plant soaked into it, with the sun's rays being allowed to pass through them, or if that's not possible, actually just being boiled. And then there's actually no evidence at all that rescue remedy has any effect, unsurprisingly, given that's how it's produced. And really it's the same principles of homeopathy. It's it's not something that's got any logical action. It's got no evidence to support it. It has been looked at, and really rescue remedy is now something that I wouldn't recommend. If you're interested in homeopathy in general, then check out the links in the show notes to a piece that I've done all about homeopathy that discusses that in far more detail. But there are other things that we can do. So Fellaway does help, and Britt has actually tried that in her cat. But it shouldn't be the only thing that we do. It does need other things to help it, and that can be managing the environment, like I've discussed. There are other supplements that we can use that are kind of more like herbal dietary supplements, and that's like Carmex and Zilkine, which have limited evidence to prove their effect. But there is some evidence out there. And then we've also got proper pharmaceutical products such as clomipramine, which is an anti-anxiety, an antidepressant treatment that can really help in reducing stress. We want to be using that in for kind of short-term use, ideally. And it's not something we would reach for in every single stressed out cat, but for a cat that's really struggling to cope with their environment, that's definitely something that we can consider. But obviously that needs to be prescribed by a vet, and again kind of used with changes in the environment as well, so that a cat isn't just put on medication and left on medication for a long period of time.
You've been watching the Dr. Alex Answers video podcast. Remember to subscribe and head over to dralexanswers.com for any links, downloads, and get your question answered.